one reason why we may see some changes also is because of demography. The two demographic changes that we need to focus on in this county and all these counties are business and population, where in some cases business stays pretty stagnant as far as the business mix. And I'm going to show you some graphs here in a bit that provide some evidence that Marin County really does not change economically as far as its industrial mix in the long term. That, however, may be changing, and that may be changing because the demography is going to change. And we have kind of done the latter here in Marin County in the sense that the businesses have been here, and the supposition is that, you know, if we build it, they will come, rather than thinking about the fact that there needs to be a labor force here to take over what may in fact be a very empty middle class in Marin County, and it's already emptied out a lot. I don't know how many of you have kids that had to move away from Marin County because they simply could not afford to live here because you got in while the getting was still relatively good, but that trend is likely to continue. And again, it's a mix of both the demographic changes that are taking place and the fact that this is likely to remain a relatively high cost of living area, specifically because there's external demand for real estate when it comes up for sale at lower prices in this area. So there's really no mechanism by which we should see any sort of classic model of real estate play itself out. There's not going to be a massive layoff that's going to lead to a mass out-migration of workers that will lead to a lot of existing units going up, which leads to a precipitous drop in housing prices. As soon as it begins to drop, people are going to migrate out of the city and move into that bigger home. And until that, and then the market will clear. And it's classic economics. The population changes, as I said before, are going to change not only how businesses, the business composition, but also the demand for goods and services. So please bear that in mind. There is also an estimate at the Department of Finance for a more ethnically diverse population in Marin County that will walk somewhat parallel to what's happening in Sonoma County, but I just don't see that happening as rapidly as I see it happening in other counties. The modeling that takes place at the Department of Finance is very linear. I pick the growth rate and I walk it through the next 50 years. I think the growth rate in Marin County of ethnic diversity is probably a little lower than places like Napa and Sonoma counties. Solano and Napa are looking to be the most ethnically diverse, where in fact the Caucasian population will be in the minority by 2025 in both those counties. So there's a rapid change as far as the market base of clients and the market base of your consumers regardless of your business. Let's look at the industrial mix in Marin County over the last 17 years. This is the 1990 number. These are the 1990 numbers, and you see a fairly balanced economy. Another thing that Marin has in its back pocket is it's got a lot of balance outside of ag, where Sonoma and Napa counties have the ag element as well. It's a little more balanced, but Marin County is still pretty balanced. Watch what happens in the next two graphs. The next graph is 2000, after we had a long boom period. Not much change. About 1% here and there. They basically are trading each other. The key one here is information, which is probably really tough to see in the back. But information is sort of, I don't know my dartboard very well as far as the number, but I want to say it's kind of in the 18 position. It's right here. Here, I'll just walk in. It's right there. Information is 5% of the labor force in 2000, and it's 4% in 1990. And information is where all the technology companies are housed. So it tells you that not much happened. Financial services basically dropped by 1% between those years. And other than that, it's just a basic trading between all these other sectors. Not much happened. And here's the latest 2006, which are the latest numbers out of EDD. Again, not much has happened. Now, what has expanded is you've seen a loss in information, and other than that, not much change. That the loss of information jobs basically spread themselves otherwise. Construction, for example, stayed pretty stable, with 7% of the labor force in 2000 and 7% in 2006. So, anyway, what that tells you, and what it tells an economist, is that Marin County over the last 17 years has been very stable on the one hand, which is a good thing, concerning its industrial mix and balance. That's helped Marin County insulate itself against a lot of the volatility we've seen over the last 16 years, but it also, of course, reduced how much growth could have taken place had they sort of become more exposed in the risk of certain industries. The bad thing about that is it also leads to sort of a siloing effect of certain businesses that don't want to move or in fact cannot move very easily. And so it doesn't allow an easy expansion of new businesses that in fact can bring a lot of growth to the county. So it is that sort of mix, and you have to sort of pick which one you like. For example, In Sonoma and Napa counties, there is a large base of firms that cannot move because of geographic concerns, and that's the wine industry. And the tourism industry that is built up, especially the restaurants and the B&Bs that have built up, and the hotels around that industry, are also somewhat immobile because they won't be able to find another place where they have a market advantage. The city's basically completely saturated, and there's no other place to go. What's going to happen in Sonoma and Napa counties over the next 10 or 15 years is a large increase in the casino activity. So in Sonoma County now is looking in the next 8 years to see the casino industry, which will fall ultimately into leisure and hospitality, and I don't have the Sonoma numbers in this presentation, but that will be, it's being forecasted, that will be the #1 employer in Sonoma County in 10 years. So that is a reflection of the expansion plans of those casinos at this point.